Hi guys, welcome to the assignment. I hope you solved it. This was a very simple assignment. हमारे को यूनिटी फंक्शन गिवन है, पीरियड फर्स्ट पीरियड की इनकम गिवन है, सेकेंड पीरियड की इनकम गिवन है. वी आर गिवन द रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट. हमें कंजम्पशन बंडल निकालना है, उसको सॉल्व करना है. सो वी हैव C1 टू बी इक्वल टू M1 प्लस M2 माइनस C2 अपॉन 1 प्लस R, या फिर हम निकाल सकते हैं C2 टू बी इक्वल टू M2 प्लस M1 माइनस C1 into 1 plus R, जो भी हमें ठीक लगे. Let's take this one. C2 is unknown, M2 is 1100 plus M1 is 2000 minus C1, which we don't know what that is, into 1.1. That's my budget line. That is C2 1.1 C1 plus C2 is equal to 1100 plus 2000 into 1.1. 2000 into 1.1 is 2200. 2000 into 1.1 is 2200. So 2200 plus 1100 is 3300. So this comes out to be 3300. So I have 1.1 C1 plus C2 to be equal to 3300. We also know that utility function is C1 into C2. So MRS is equal to the price ratio is what the tangency condition is, which implies C2 by C1 is equal to 1.1. C2 by C1 is equal to 1.1. So C2 is equal to 1.1 C1. So C2 is equal to 1.1 C1 को मैं यहाँ पे डाल सकती हूँ. So I can write as 2 C2 is equal to 3300, which implies C2 is equal to 2 on the 2, 2 6 the 12, 50, 1650, and C1 then will be 1650 divided by 1.1, which comes out to be 1500. तो हमारा डायग्राम कैसे बनेगा? हमारे पास ये हमारी बजट लाइन है. दिस इज माय एंडाउमेंट, क्योंकि मेरे पास एंडाउमेंट M1 में ज़्यादा है और M2 में कम है. बट माय इक्विलिब्रियम इज समवेयर हियर at 1500. So that means I'm a net lender. Now let's do it when rate of interest increases to 20%. Then what happens? When rate of interest increases to 20%, then I get C2 is equal to M2, which is 1100, plus M1 minus C1 into 1.2. So I have C2. So C2 is equal to M2, which is 1100, plus 2000 into 1.2 is 2400 minus 1.2 C1. So my equation becomes 1.2 C1 plus C2 is equal to 3500. So when you solve it, you get C2 to be equal to 1750 and C1 will then be 1750 divided by 1.2. 1750 divided by 1.2, which comes out to be 1458.33. So let me approximate it to 1459. So 1459 comma 1750 is my new bundle. मतलब my E1 is actually lying somewhere to the left. So अब मेरा rate of interest जब increase करा 20% पे, तो मेरा budget line कैसे shift करेगी? We know the slope of the line is 1 plus minus 1 into R. ये वाला point हमें पता है क्या होता है? It is M1 plus M2 upon 1 plus R, and this one is M2 plus M1 into 1 plus R. Now that the rate of interest has increased, my budget line will swindle like this. So my E1 will be slightly towards the left, which will be somewhere here. So this is my question number 1. Question number 2. A has an income of ₹20 in each period. If she can borrow at the rate of 200% and lend at the rate of 0%, draw her budget line. So A की income है M1 is equal to M2 is equal to 20. If she can borrow at the rate of 200% and lend the rate of 0%, मतलब अगर मैं इसका budget line बनाना चाहूँ तो मेरे पास ये endowment है, मैं lend नहीं कर सकती, मैं borrow कर सकती हूँ. मैं borrow कर सकती हूँ मतलब मैं अपनी कंजम्पशन फर्स्ट पीरियड में तो बढ़ा सकती हूँ, बट सेकेंड पीरियड में जो मेरी इनकम है मैक्सिमम मेरी उतनी ही कंजम्पशन हो सकती है, क्योंकि लैंड में 0% पे करूँगी. इज दैट करेक्ट? इज दैट करेक्ट? दैट्स नॉट करेक्ट. यू सी, इवन इफ आई एम लैंडिंग एट द रेट ऑफ 0%, जो मैं अपना पैसा सेव करूँगी वो तो मेरे पास रहेगा ना. वो तो मेरे पास रहेगा ना. So if I can borrow at the rate of 200%, 200% is way higher. That means that अगर मैं अपना पैसा सेव कर रही हूँ तो मुझे उसके ऊपर कुछ एक्स्ट्रा मनी नहीं मिल रहा, बट जो पैसा मैंने सेव किया वो पैसा तो मुझे वापस मिल ही सकता है ना. Whatever money I save, that money I can definitely get back, which means what is going to be my budget line? To draw this budget line and to understand how this budget line is drawn, I will do one thing. What I will do is, let me draw a budget line which is going to be, let's say, for the rate of 200%. So let's suppose ये मेरी budget line होती if I could borrow and lend both at the rate of 200%. तो ये वाला है मेरा slope when I have R to be equal to 200%. Now the thing is कि जब मैं lend कर रही हूँ तो I'm lending at the rate of 0%. तो अगर lend करके पहले मुझे इतना सारा मिल रहा था तो अब मुझे बहुत कम मिलेगा. So that means my budget line is going to have an outward kink. I hope that makes sense. I will draw it again. So I'm saying that for me to be able to understand this, let me draw a budget line and let me mark my point of endowment. ठीक है, ये मेरा endowment है. This is 20 and this is 20. And let's say right now my rate of interest is 0. So the slope is -1. This is 40 and this is also 40. Now what is happening? What is happening is that we are saying कि मैं lend तो 0% पे करूँगी, बट मैं borrow जो करूँगी वो 200% पे करूँगी, which means that borrowing जब मैं करूँगी 200% पे, तो जो मैं borrow करके consume कर सकती हूँ वो बहुत कम हो जाएगा. So this becomes my budget line. My budget line becomes this and this having an outward kink. This is a straight line, by the way. मेरी straight line बनी नहीं है, but please you make a straight line. This has a outward kink. So ये ऐसे है, फिर ये ऐसे है. It has an outward kink. ठीक है. So now when we have drawn this, draw her budget line. We have drawn the budget line. So now we are given that if she invests in another project with 30 and 15, would she be better off or worse off? अब better off worse off calculate करने के लिए तो हमें net present value calculate करना पड़ता है. Net present value क्या होगा? उसने क्या किया, उसने 20 रुपीज़ आज अर्न किए और उसने 20 रुपीज़ बाद में अर्न किए. So she is earning a 20 rupees today and she is earning a 20 rupees in the next time period. Now when she can borrow at the rate of 200% and lend at the rate of 0%, तो हम present value निकालेंगे ना सब चीज़ों की. ठीक है, सब चीज़ों की प्रेजेंट वैल्यू निकालेंगे. आज की 20 की तो 20 ही है. जो मैंने फ्यूचर में 20 अर्न किया, उसको मैं बोरो कर सकती हूँ एट द रेट ऑफ 200%. When I can borrow it at the rate of 200%, then my rate of interest is 200%. So I know a lot of people have confusion how to write 200%, so I'll write it here. So अगर R मेरा 20% है तो उसको हम बोलते हैं 0.2. तो हम essentially क्या करते हैं, 20/100 करते हैं. तो अगर मेरा R 200% है तो मैं इसको करूँगी upon 100 again, which means this is 2, right? So 1 plus R will be 3. 1 plus R will be 3. So 200% के अगर मैं कर सकती हूँ तो then this will be 3. So my NPV becomes 80/3 for A, and NPV for B will be what? I have 30 rupees plus I can borrow 15. I can borrow from a 15, which is 35. So this value is definitely less than a 35. 80/3 is definitely less than a 35. So would she be better off or worse off? She would be better off. Why would she be better off? Because net present value of project B is greater than net present value of project A. A's unitary function is C1, C2. Rate of interest 10% है. 50,000, 0 है. Consumption bundle निकालना है. बहुत simple है. What is my consumption bundle going to be? Rate of interest is 10%. So can I say C2 is equal to M2 plus M1 minus C1 into 1 plus R. ये मेरा होता है. So C2 हमें नहीं पता. M2 क्या है? 50,000. M1 क्या है? नहीं, sorry, M2 तो 0 है ना. M2 is 0, M1 is 50,000 minus C1 the whole into 1.1. So I can write this as 1.1 C1 plus C2 is equal to 55,000. 1.1 C1 plus C2 is equal to 55,000. So C2 by C1 is equal to 1.1, which implies C2 is equal to 1.1 C1, right? So C2 is 55,000 upon 2, which is 27,500, and then C1 will be 27,500 upon 1.1. That comes out to be, I think it should be 25,000. Let me just calculate. This is 25,000. Right? So my bundle is 25,000, 27,500. Next question. U is given to us as minimum of C1, C2. Rate of interest is 21% and M1 and M2 is also given. So now हमारे को given है M1 is 2000, M2 is 1100, consumption bundle if inflation is 10%. So when inflation is 10%, then we don't use a R. We use a 1 plus rho, and 1 plus rho is 1 plus R upon 1 plus inflation, which then comes out to be what? Let's calculate. 1.21 divided by 1.1. This comes out to be 1.1, which means that now when I'm calculating, मैं इसके अंदर अपना interest rate क्या लूँगी? I will take the rate of interest as 10%. So minimum है, perfect complement है, तो equilibrium will be at the kink. So equilibrium is at the kink. अगर equilibrium kink पे है, then can I write C1 is equal to C2? When C1 is equal to C2, तो और budget line हमारे पास क्या होगी? Budget line will be C2 is equal to M2 plus M1 minus C1 into 1.1, which is my 1 plus rho, right? So 1.1 C1 plus C2 is equal to 2200 plus 1100, which is 3300. So now I have, मैं C1 की जगह C2 की जगह C1 लिख सकती हूँ. So I have C1 to be equal to C2 is equal to 3300 upon 2.1. And you can just calculate to find the answer. The last question, very important question, very interesting question. On a hilly crop, only one crop is cultivated. M1 is 1000. क्योंकि हमें कुछ और दिया नहीं हुआ ना, इसलिए I will assume price of this bushel is 1. M2 is 150. The crop can be stored, but 25% of it is destroyed. A part and B part. 25% of it is destroyed, which means what? Which means that मेरा जो 1 plus R है, वो अब 0.75 हो गया, क्योंकि वो 1 plus R की जगह it will become 1 minus R, right? So now when I'm doing C2, I'm doing M2 plus M1 minus C1. Instead of doing 1 plus R, I'm going to do 0.75. क्योंकि जो 1 था मेरा, उसमें से 0.25, 25% crops तो मेरी destroy हो जाती हैं. So when I'm taking from this time period to the next, I can only have 75% of the crops. So C2 is equal to 150 plus 750 minus 0.75 C1. So I have the budget line as 0.75 C1 plus C2 is equal to 900. हमारी ये वाली हमारी budget equation बनेगी. ठीक है? We will have the budget equation to be like this. Now I need the utility function for me to go further. The utility function is given to us as, यहाँ पे नहीं लिखा हुआ, but आपके assignments में लिखा हुआ है C1 C2. Now we know C2 by C1 is equal to 0.75. C2 is equal to 0.75 C1, right? So C2 is 450 and C1 is 450 upon 0.75, which comes out to be 600. So my first A part ka bundle is 600, 450. This is my answer for the A part. B part. This is the B part. They can sell and buy the crop from another town and the rate of interest for the same is 10%. अगर मैं sell कर सकती हूँ और buy कर सकती हूँ, तो इसका मतलब मेरा ये जो storage का था ये option तो खत्म ही हो गया, वो तो A part था वैसे भी. तो अब हमारे पास क्या होगी? Now my budget line will be C2 to be equal to M2 plus M1 minus C1 the whole into 1.1 because that's my rate of interest. So C2 is equal to 150 plus 1100 minus 1.1 C1, which is 1.1 C1 is equal to 1250 plus C2, sorry, is equal to 1250. इसको आप calculate कर सकते हो, right? When you calculate it, you get it to be 568, 624. Please calculate it, you'll get this answer. So this was very simple. The only trick I feel is somewhere here, जहाँ पे आपको हो सकता है कि प्राइस लाइन या बजट लाइन कैलकुलेट नहीं करनी आई हो. उसके अलावा intertemporal numericals are fairly simple. Like I said earlier also, intertemporal resonates with endowment a lot. So that's why intertemporal was a really really simple one. Endowment अच्छे से समझ में आता है तो intertemporal में कुछ extra है नहीं. The next chapter that we're going to be starting is uncertainty. Now mind you, uncertainty is a different curveball altogether. So अभी तक जो आपने करा है वो एक level है, उसको आप please अच्छे से कर लो before you move to uncertainty. Uncertainty is another Pandora box and unit 2 is another Pandora box. So जब तक आप वहाँ तक आते हो तब तक अपना intertemporal अच्छे से कर लो, like do everything that you've done so far very 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 well, so that you understand कि diminishing MRS से तो convex होता है, different kind of curves that exist and etc. So that the next chapter and the next unit is relatively easier for you to manage. All right, thank you.